Yo, YouTube, welcome back, man. Welcome back. Saha, Saha. I gotta stop doing that. You feel me? I think, you know, nah, but that I was gonna say my intros be too long, but I love yap and shit. Yeah, I ain't complained about it yet. So obviously y'all love when I yap. You feel me? You feel me? Y'all love when I yap for real. So you know what? We gonna keep the yapping. We gonna keep the yapping today. You feel me? Today. You feel me? We are watching Mr. Terrific creates the Fantastic Four. Now, I do want to do more, just not even just superhero stuff, because I want to do more than just superhero stuff. You know, I don't mind reacting to like, I don't know. I really don't want to do no like relationship content or nothing of that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like one of them videos where it's about a woman saying some dumb shit or a nigga being a creep. I don't really want to react to no videos like that. Cause that's not the type of energy I want to bring over here. You feel me? I don't want to bring that type of energy over here, and I don't want to put myself in a pocket. So I'm gonna find more to react to and bring to the channel, but I can't promise it's gonna be anything like that. I can't promise it's gonna be anything like that. Now, of course, I'll see some certain videos that I don't mind reacting to, that I don't mind talking about. Certain subjects I don't mind talking about. I don't mind bringing to my attention and my energy. You feel me? It's certain subjects I don't mind. So we are gonna get videos like that, but it's not gonna be a lot. You feel me? Most of my videos are gonna be anime, superheroes, TV shows, Star Wars, games. Shit, we can read mangas on this bitch for real. I love mangas. We can do fan created shit. Yeah, we can do a lot because it's a lot that I'm interested in, but it's not a lot that I want to open my energy to. You feel me? You feel me? But anyway, let's get to the video, man.
The Terrifics was DC Comics' shameless ripoff of the Fantastic Four, and it's hilarious. I love this comic so much, especially Dr. Dread. That dude was so goofy.
Dr.
So this picks up with
Dreadhead.
Mr.
My
Terrific
bad,
showing
y'all.
up
He didn't say
to
that.
Stag
You're right. My
Industries,
bad.
right, and meeting with Java. Now, there is some history here. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But Java is literally a guy based on a Neanderthal. He's a literal Neanderthal. And he's essentially the henchman, butler, whatever it is that Simon Stagg needs at any particular point in time. Now, one of the things that had happened is that while Mr. Terrific does have his own IP, his own properties, and so on and so forth, that during the whole death metal event, which we'll talk about here in a little while, that Simon Stagg had basically bought everything that Mr. Terrific had, all of his technology, the whole nine yards, his company, right? And so what ended up happening here is that Mr. Terrific showing up is based on the fact that his T-spheres have alerted him to the idea that Simon Stagg is screwing around with Terrific's old previous experiments. Now, with Mr. Terrific being one of the smartest men in the world, these experiments are nothing to take lightly, and that's why he shows up here, because what we end up learning is that with Simon Stagg doing what he's doing, he has opened a portal to the dark multiverse. Like, why would someone do that?
Yeah,
Why would a person
someone
open a
do
portal to the dark multiverse? Okay, for those of you guys who are
These
familiar with the dark multiverse, bear with me for a second. All you new fans, the dark multiverse was insane.
these fucking scientists. Yeah, I was trying to control the yap. Y'all see it. I was trying to control the yap. But these fucking scientists in DC always doing some goddamn stupid ass shit, bro. They always doing some stupid shit. And I succeeded, but now I don't know how to close it. Why did you open it? Why did you open it? If y'all don't see what I'm saying, it's a little bubble behind my camera right now. You feel me? It's a little fucking text bubble behind my camera right now. Is that Metamorpho? Nigga look cool right here. He look cool. I fuck with this design. I fuck with this design. Metamorpho came from the, or did he use Metamorpho to open a dark dimension? That's why Metamorpho posted up like a thought right now on my screen. Like, what the fuck is going on, man?
The long and short of it is
These
that it's like
fucking
a
scientists in
mirror for the
DC need
multiverse
to.
in DC Comics, the
They
positive
need to be
multiverse. So the
exterminated,
dark
man.
multiverse is basically where every bad thing that can happen does happen. So the dark multiverse, for example, is where you get Red Death Batman, right? A version of Bruce Wayne that merged with the Flash and the Speed Force, and then was basically an evil Batman that could run as fast as the Flash. The most popular character to ever come out of the dark multiverse was the Batman Who Laughs, a version of Batman that basically became the Joker after being poisoned by the Joker when Batman killed the Joker.
That is peak right there. That is
it was
peak
pretty
Batman
bonkers.
right there.
But in effect, opening a portal to the
was
dark
amazing.
multiverse could lead to who knows what coming through that thing. Because all anybody in the dark multiverse wants to do is spread the dark multiverse and essentially corrupt everything they find. And that's the thing. While Simon Stagg opened a portal to the dark multiverse, he doesn't know how to close it. And in fact, what he had been doing was basically using Metamorpho in order to try to stabilize it, or at least figure out what's inside of it. Now, here's the relationship between Metamorpho, Simon Stagg, and Simon Stagg's daughter, Sapphire.
Yeah,
pretty quickly here. Metamorpho was a guy named Rex. He was basically Indiana Jones in DC Comics. He was also the love interest of Sapphire Stagg. Her father's a dick, and her father tried to kill him by leaving him in a temple that housed something called the Orb of Ra. That when the Orb of Ra was taken by Java, who betrayed Rex on behalf of Simon Stagg, that Rex was hit by the powers of the Orb of Ra, and that's how he became Metamorpho. Done. So there's a whole bunch of history here between Simon Stagg, Sapphire, and Metamorpho. More so than that, what Terrific does is he kind of looks around and says, okay, cool. So here's the thing. The portal's open. There's no discernible means of closing it. And he's like, well, then we're going to need
Wait, why did it just click? So this nigga Simon Stagg made Metamorpho to who he is right now. And now he's technically abusing a person. Wow. Yeah, everybody in DC is a dick. Okay.
Back up. Sure. So he's like, time to bring him in. And where Simon Stagg is like, what in the world are you talking about? We end up finding out the person Mr. Terrific is bringing in is none other than Plastic Man. Right now, this is nuts. Initially, Plastic Man is not normally Plastic Man, and we'll talk about why here in a minute. But the other thing going on here with Metamorpho is that when he was exposed to the energies of the dark multiverse, he immediately turned into Nth Metal and started going crazy. Now, Nth Metal is a material in DC Comics that's kind of treated like vibranium in Marvel, where it does have base properties, but what it can do is also whatever the writers need it to do. So in Marvel Comics, for example, when Dr. Doom seized all the vibranium, used it to amplify his magical energies, and then almost took over the world. Nth Metal is very similar to that. It does have magical properties, different things like that, but in this instance, with Metamorpho encountering Nth Metal and then turning into Nth Metal, this is actually an instance where DC can build on this and say that now he can basically turn into this wildly capable and nigh indestructible material. Not only that, because Metamorpho is basically going crazy, he breaks free of his chains, he attacks Mr. Terrific, and then all hell breaks loose when he gets sucked into the portal. Not only that, it's Mr. Terrific and Plastic Man who get yanked into the portal as well, and they immediately get sucked into the dark multiverse. Now, because Mr. Terrific is such a genius, right, ever the guy who's able to keep his wits, even if it makes him a little socially awkward, he immediately thinks fast, and he says, okay, Plastic Man, encase us in your abilities, right? Literally, wrap yourself around us and keep us protected, which he does, and then they just kind of crash land onto the surface. And that's when you kind of start to get this explanation of what's going on, right? Where Metamorpho says he didn't really mean to do any of it, that Stagg wanted him to go through that portal to check it out, and then like an idiot, Metamorpho agreed. And the next thing he knew, he was just this crazed Nth Metal monster attacking virtually everything in sight. Not only that, we actually figure out what's going on with Plastic Man here, because Plastic Man isn't even fully aware of what's going on. And so where Plastic Man says that the last thing he remembers was being in the Batcave with Batman. The Batman said that he had a super secret mission for Plastic Man, and then it all gets fuzzy after that, right? Mr. Terrific fills things in with a pretty solid explanation, right? More than I need to add to. And he just says, Batman knew that your unique molecular structure had a superconductive reaction to the energies of the dark multiverse. He tried to send you in as a probe, but when you came out, you froze up into a dormant state. And it seemed that making contact again reversed the effects, but we really don't know for how long. Now, the part that's not really being stated here is the fact that Plastic Man is basically immune, physically immune to the energies of the dark multiverse.
Yeah.
So he's really their best bet for any measure of protection.
Plastic Man is so fucking OP. Every story you hear Plastic Man is, he's never the main character. he always a plot point of being just OP as fuck and like we need this nigga here. If this nigga's on our side, we win. That's always Plastic Man. Plastic Man is an amazing character, and I really wish they would add more characters like Plastic Man to the cinematic universe, because it would honestly make it better. You know, because see what they did with Mr. Terrific. I never knew. I have heard about Mr. Terrific before, but he was. I never even took the time to ever do any research about him until that Superman movie. You know, it ain't saying they gotta make them main character or get them big. You feel me? Get them big things in the story how they did Mr. Terrific, nigga. You can do it how you did Guy Gardner or Hawk Girl. You feel me? They was in the movie. They probably had about 10 scenes in total. Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner, and they still the scenes you seen them in. It made you love the characters, made you respect the characters. You don't have to make the. You don't have to put a random character that nobody knows about, make a whole movie about them and have us in about 2 hours for a character we don't even care about. You feel me? Like, honestly, nowadays, I don't watch no superhero movie unless it's a superhero I care about. I don't care. I don't care what nobody else is saying. Like, the last superhero movies I watched after Endgame was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That was an amazing movie. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was so good. Thunderbolts and Superman. And I'm gonna go see this Fantastic Four movie that's coming out this weekend. So yeah. Yeah, but I really don't watch no superhero movies no more.
Against whatever happens to be out there. The other thing that goes on here with Plastic Man is he is stupidly overpowered. Like in Injustice Gods Among Us, we end up learning he can kill Superman. He can just flood Superman's lungs and there's nothing Superman can do. He'll just sit there and suffocate and that'll be the end of him. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that makes Plastic Man OP. I'll have a video in the description if you guys want to check him out. But where Plastic Man gets a little irritated by the fact that he was just kind of left in a sort of stasis form to a degree. The response of Mr. Terrific is like, number one, we didn't know is sending you back into the multiverse would somehow snap you out of that frozen state and then we could bring you back and you would be normal. And number two, even if we did, opening a portal to the dark multiverse at that point in time was just far too dangerous. There was everything going on with the Batman who laughs, gaining the powers of Dr. Manhattan, trying to rewrite the entirety of the multiverse and all that kind of stuff. Death Metal was a crazy story in DC Comics, by the way. But ultimately Plastic Man's like, he's still a little bit pissy, but he's like, okay. And so once everything kind of starts to settle down and people sort of get the immediate questions answered, right? Sapphire's not hurt, different things like that, that Mr. Terrific actually picks up on a kind of beacon out there. Someone is sending an SOS. Not only that, this is when you start to get the banter between Metamorpho and Plastic Man, and it is amazing. It's hilarious. Because at that point, Mr. Terrific's like, Plastic Man, can you bring us down onto the surface so we can see what this whole thing is? And his response, like, well, I mean, I don't know, Mr. Fair Play. Am I going to turn into a giant egg again for a few years if I listen to you? And that's where Metamorpho's like, I mean, if you want to be put to sleep, I can help with that, rubber lip.
I'm thinking, cause like, I'm really thinking like, is that some fucked up shit what they did to Mr. Plastic? Or Plastic Man? Well, I just say Mr. Plastic. Right? Cause y'all know why I said that shit. But is that fucked up what they did to Plastic Man? Because I don't think it's fucked up because they didn't know he was going to go into stasis and turn into an egg. They didn't know that. It kind of just happened when he went in there. And they didn't know how to get in, or they didn't know if sending him back into the portal was gonna make it worse, or they didn't know, so they just didn't want to. If anything, it would have been fucked up if they sent him back into the portal just on some shit. It fucked them up the first time when they there. Let's see what it do to him this time. You know that would have been fucked up. So I don't think it's fucked up. He probably just a little hurt. And Metamorpho, stop it. Stop it. You can't do nothing to Plastic Man. Just stop.
Just do what the guy says so we can get out of here. And so they, of course, end up descending down to the surface. Now, because Metamorpho have been exposed to the energies of the Dark Multiverse, he'll basically be fine. Plastic Man is, of course, immune to it. And now that Mr. Terrific has been here and had a chance to analyze everything using his T-spheres, which is what's kind of been going on behind the scenes, he can create a force field for himself to protect himself from the Dark Multiverse. So at that point, they can just kind of go around and explore. The crazy thing here is they don't really know the nature of the surface that they're on. And so that's when Metamorpho's like, guys, this is not a planetoid, right? We're on a living organism, because literally Plastic Man just kind of like zooms out, stretches his head all the way out. And he was like, yeah, we're basically in the presence of a giant celestial being, which is obviously Galactus.
Is that Galactus? Maybe it's just like his skeleton and the fact that his skin is, you know, rotten and shit. You really can't tell. I don't know. This don't look like Galactus to me.
It not be construed as being a dead version of Galactus. Not only that, all these crazy little spiders and whatnot start to attack them. But then, like, out of nowhere, a girl basically stops it. Not only that, she's shocked to see that everybody's here, right? That there's like other human beings here. And that's when you kind of start to get her story. And it's really a bit of a tragic one, because she's like, I've been here for a long time. I don't really know how long, because this place is funny when it comes to time. I'm in my intangible form. Everybody on my planet can do that. It's not really a big deal. But ever since I got here, I have not been able to turn back into my tangible form. So I've just been stuck like this, as basically a being floating through. And so she's obviously an allegory for Susan Storm on the team. And if you haven't figured it out by now, Metamorpho is the Thing. Plastic Man is a combination of Reed Richards and the Human Torch, really more Human Torch's personality than anything else. And Mr. Terrific is the personality of Reed. Not only that, this girl says her name is Lenya.
You're reaching, buddy. Nah, I can see it. I can see it. It just kind of confuses things, because Plastic Man can stretch, but Mr. Terrific is the smart one. But Plastic Man you feel me? It just confuses things when you try to compare them to the Fantastic Four, like they're you feel me? That's all. But I can see it.
And she's from a planet called Begitzel, which is kind of a weird name. But when they talk about the distress signal that she sent out, really her response here is, I never sent a distress signal. I never sent an alert to anybody, right? And that's where Terrific is like, well, it's coming from that machine over there. And she's like, look, I mean, I couldn't have turned that thing on even if I knew how to, because I'm intangible. I can't physically touch things. And so what ends up happening is that when Mr. Terrific turns it on, they're met with a broadcast from Tom Strong, right? And he says, if you are seeing this recording, it means I'm probably dead. That means that it's up to you to save the universe. Now, Tom Strong is so cool in DC Comics. I love Tom Strong. He's almost kind of like a Indiana Jones meets Captain America type character. He's really more of a byproduct of basically science engineering, and he actually consumes something called the Galuka root, which is what keeps him youthful. This guy literally is peak. He's amazing, right? Tom Strong is so cool. He did appear back in 1999, and he's been around DC for quite some time. He has his own stories. We can make a video explaining his history if you guys are interested. But what's kind of wonky here is, like, no one here has heard of Tom Strong.
Yeah.
Metamorpho doesn't know who he is. Mr. Terrific doesn't even know who he is. Of course, Lenya doesn't know who he is. And so it's just kind of like, all right, well, then we got to figure out what's going on with this guy. But first and foremost, we have to figure out a way out of this place. Because while they can't survive within the Dark Multiverse, those of you guys who remember Dark Knight's Death Metal issue number 7, one of the things that we learned is that the Dark Multiverse was not completely and totally eradicated, and that it's basically been saved. So within this place are a variety of different worlds and realities where any number of things would destroy them. And so in the midst of all of this, the question's asked, well then, who is Lenya? And how did you even end up here in the first place? Because from the perspective of Mr. Terrific, a way in is a way out. So depending on how she got here, that could very well be their exit. And so what she says is that her and her family were headed to Bismol for the Magno Ball Championships, which kind of sounds amazing. But then their ship was hit with some sort of space storm, and there was a hole in space, or a rift or something like that, right? She was too young to really remember all the details, and so she's kind of recalling what she can, given how young she was. But the ship was basically being torn apart. And so in a story reminiscent to Superman, her parents put her in an escape pod. And then the intention was to basically send her out there into the universe so she can survive while they died. Instead, the opposite seemed to happen, that her father miscalculated, and she was yanked into the dark multiverse while her parents escaped. And she's just basically been here ever since. But she
Damn,
says that she was
that's
stuck in
fucked
her
up.
phantom form, and there was nobody else, that she only had the spiders to
That's
keep her company.
extremely
She did
fucked
try to
up.
explore, but there was
Damn.
ultimately nothing. And she says, I could tell I was getting older, but like I said, time is funny here. Some days it felt like I'd been here for hours. Other days it felt like I'd been here for decades. And so I had given up any hope and thought that I'd just grow old into an old phantom here and die alone, when suddenly you guys appeared. And so at that point, Mr. Terrific is like, okay, cool. Well, that doesn't answer anything that I had, but thanks for the origin story. And he's like, we're just going to have to compare stories later, because right now we have to get out of here. And so he ultimately ends up taking the antenna, or trying to take the antenna off the broadcast device so he can study it and potentially figure out a way to leave. Because antennas broadcast signals. Broadcasting a signal is not that dissimilar from broadcasting energy that can open a portal. The problem is he can't get it off. He can't pull it off by himself. Plastic Man joins in, Plastic Man can't pull it off, and so you have Plastic Man, Metamorpho, and Mr. Terrific, and they can't pull it off. But finally, they do. They end up yanking it away, but when they do, there's like this huge explosion of
I knew
energy.
some shit
Now,
was
it
about to
doesn't kill
happen.
them, and it kind of leaves them a little disoriented. Nobody really knows what happens, but one of the things to keep in mind about Mr. Terrific is that while he can multitask and solve a variety of issues, when it comes to situations like this, something as big as being stuck in the dark multiverse, that's the most pressing thing. Everything else is secondary, and he basically creates a hierarchy of significant problems to contend with at any point in time. The bigger the issue, the more singular his focus.
Damn.
Not only that,
For
once
Mr.
they yank the
Terrific to
antenna,
say, I
they
have no
realize
idea.
they basically woke up Galactus. We're going to call him Galactus. They basically woke up Galactus. And so at that point, they don't know what this thing's capable of. They don't know how powerful it is, and nobody wants to stick around and find out. So they immediately make a beeline for the portal that is still partly open, at least just enough for them to access. Again, the hope was to try to find a way to expand it larger so they could safely leave. But now if it's bigger, they're going to end up letting this giant celestial in, right? So basically they flee as fast as they possibly can. They end up escaping right back into Stag Industries, and that's when this thing starts sticking its fingers through, right? Now, of course, Mr. Terrific, ever the genius, figures out a way to shut down the portal pretty quickly, and of course this thing loses its fingers, but this moment is basically saved. Not only that, we start to find out that changes have actually taken place when they touch the antenna, because Phantom Girl turns back into her physical form. But as soon as she makes contact with the ground and like touches a piece of machinery, everything starts to explode. And that's where Terrific is like, get back into your phantom form, which she immediately does. And that's where he figures out, because of whatever happened to you in the dark multiverse, or the amount of time you spent there, when you turn tangible, whatever you physically touch, and it doesn't matter what part of you touches it, but whatever you physically touch will explode. So you cannot touch anything. And that's when you start to see the part of Mr. Terrific that's a little bit of a dick, right? Truth to tell. Because while everybody's like, okay, then what do we do, right? I mean, there's got to be some way to figure this out. He's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I'll figure out an answer to this. And then basically gets in his ship and gets ready to leave and like takes off, right? Because Phantom Girl is just like, I mean, what about me, right? I mean, what are you going to do?
What the fuck is he supposed to do? Nah, Mr. Terrific being a dick. What is he supposed to do? Nigga showed up, saved everybody, closed the portal. He like, shit, I gotta go figure this out. I need some time to go figure this out. I'm finna go hop in my ship, go figure this shit out real quick. What you gonna do about Phantom form? I don't even know where you came from. Like, I don't know what species you are. All I know for sure is if you go into tangible form, you touch shit, you explode shit. So don't do that. I'll figure it out. What else do y'all want him to do?
About me, and his response, I don't have time to stand around and relive our little adventure. I need to examine this antenna and figure out what it is and who this Tom Strong is. And Lydia, I can do little for you here. I have to get back to my lab. And he's like, I'm sorry, just stay in your phantom form and I'll get back to you whenever I can. And just leaves, right? And Metamorpho is just kind of like, dude, that guy's kind of a dick. But what's crazy here is that as Mr. Terrific,
he's literally not being a dick though. Like, I didn't even know he was about to say that, but nigga, whoa, hold on, cause shit like that shit hurts my brain because it's like, it makes no sense to me. When shit makes no sense to me, it kind of literally like just it makes me like, it almost irritates me for it. It irritates my brain. Like, it makes my brain start hurting because it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Starts to take off, suddenly there's this kind of explosive effect that starts to generate between himself and the rest of the team. There's a kind of tether that anchors them together. And so at that point, Terrific comes flying back down and they're like, what in the world is going on here? And Mr. Terrific kind of figured out, right? He's like, something happened to us in the Dark Multiverse when we removed the antenna. We're basically stuck together.
Yeah.
We can't leave each other's side. Not only that, there is a kind of range here, right? Mr. Terrific figures out that as far as his readings go, they cannot leave each other any more than a mile. So the instant that any one of them are a mile away from anybody else, the explosive process starts. Not only that, Metamorpho's like, so you're telling me that I'm stuck with all these bozos? And Plastic Man is like, I mean, who are you calling a bozo? And Metamorpho's like, I mean, you mostly. I'm really calling you a bozo more than anything else. Not only that, because Simon Stagg has all the best technology that Mr. Terrific has previously had, the only way for him to really get to the bottom of this and to use some of the best resources that he's ever developed to figure out any number of problems is to actually stay here in the base of Simon Stagg, which he's not really too keen to do, considering Simon Stagg bought all his stuff out from under him. And where there's a little bit of back and forth about the idea that Simon Stagg will just never give up Mr. Terrific's resources without a fight, that Metamorpho's like, do you want to fight, caveman? Because if you do, you got it. And that's where Sapphire's like, now, be nice, Rexy. And of course, Plastic Man is like, yeah, be nice, Rexy. And he makes like this giant heart in his chest. It's hilarious.
Ain't gonna lie though. If I miss Terrific and man, fuck all that legal shit, bro. This is my shit that I built. I didn't sell it to you. I don't give a fuck what you bought, how you bought it, nigga. This is my shit. Get the fuck out my building. That's what it is. I really don't care. I ain't feeling none of that shit.
But at the end of the day, the point still remains. There are so many resources here that can be used by Mr. Terrific that it would be kind of foolish for him to leave, right? For him to walk away. Not only that, one of the things that you do is you switch over to the conversation between Metamorpho and Sapphire. It's not the most important thing, but I do think it is worth mentioning here because it really kind of shows the issue at hand, which is to say Simon Stagg is just a really, really crappy guy. And where you would think it would be easy for Sapphire to just kind of be like, yeah, my dad's a dick, let's go, right, and just take off with Metamorpho. The reality here is that he's convinced her, and she's convinced herself, that her father needs her, right? So she has to stick around because family's so incredibly important, and her father doesn't have anybody else. And so at that point, right,
what does that have to do with you, baby girl? You gotta make. I know this don't even have nothing to do with the video. This is some real shit right here. Don't ever let your parents keep you stuck somewhere, especially if you really know you don't want to be here, or you know that you really want to be doing something else with your life, or you're not even really happy. You just, in your head, oh, he's my family, I can't leave him. Yo, that is your relative. I know that's gonna sound fucking hurtful, but that is your relative. Your mother and your dad, those are your relatives. Those are the people that had you. Your family is the people that you create. Your wife, your kids, that is your family. That is the people that you're supposed to go above and beyond for. You feel me? Don't ever sit there and waste your life away for your parents. Don't ever do that. Don't ever sit there and waste your life away for your parents.
And so it kind of illustrates this idea that for someone like Metamorpho, who's deeply in love with Sapphire, and for someone like Sapphire who refuses to leave the side of her father, that's why Metamorpho is always there being manipulated by Simon Stagg and so on and so forth. But in the midst of all of this, right, the team kind of figuring itself out and coming to an understanding about other individuals and stuff like that, this just like gigantic death wheel just comes like rolling towards the whole place. And what's kind of crazy about this is it shows that these guys don't really have the kind of connection that you would expect with like a team like the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four were family before they were teammates, right? So they knew each other, they loved and cared about each other. These four have just kind of been thrown together. So their team-based aspect is really more clumsy than anything else. Yeah. Because when this wheel comes just like rolling down here, you initially have Metamorpho who's like, Sapphire, get into the house, get down below the lab, and no matter what happens, stay below. We'll come and get you when this is done. And like this death wheel is just like attacking everybody. And so Mr. Terrific is like, Linnea, everything you touch explodes. Go touch the guns and blow those guns up. Now, one of the other cool things you learn too is she can actually kind of create projectiles, right? If she touches something and it starts to explode, she can hold it and throw it, right? So she's kind of like Gambit in that way, which is pretty dope. Not only that, of course, Plastic Man and those guys are put to task, and Mr. Terrific is like, I'll figure out a way to shut this thing down. Now, this is where things get kind of wonky and just shameless copying of not just the Fantastic Four, but Marvel as a whole. Because there's this point where Plastic Man turns himself into a giant slingshot, which really is just nightmare fuel. And then Metamorpho turns himself into a ball. And then Linnea, kind of working as a distraction, helps them out so that Plastic Man can fire Metamorpho into this giant death wheel. And what do they call this maneuver, you may ask? The hardball special. The only thing we're lacking here is Colossus throwing Wolverine and just calling it the fastball special, right? So it's just kind of like, okay, this is clearly hilarious and just shamelessly ripping off Marvel, but it's absolutely awesome. Because at that point, they end up destroying this giant wheel, only to find out that it was actually created by Simon Stagg, and it was his war wheel. It was a contract that he had set up with the US government. This thing's going to cost $300 million to remake. But the question that's asked here is, who turned it on? Who activated this thing and sent it towards everybody? Now, of course, we don't immediately get an answer to that question. Instead, it's just kind of like, okay, right, the team basically consolidates, they end up going back inside, but it's also small little things that Mr. Terrific starts to pick up on, right, analyzing the entirety of the situation, how all of this went down, the idea that Phantom Girl doesn't need to eat or anything like that. This is the nature of Mr. Terrific. It's always these small little things, right, that he's always looking around and he's always observing his environment. And so all these little bits of information he just kind of stores away. And then at some point along the line, it'll become relevant for him. And he'll realize, yep, this is where this fits. It doesn't usually take him by surprise. It's almost like just kind of putting together a puzzle in a lot of ways. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. Let me know if you guys want me to cover the rest of this, right? I mean, it's this first part is only 3 issues. Volume 1 is split in...
I don't know about y'all, but I definitely want to hear more about this. This is a good ass story. I might even read this comic on my own. This shit got me interested. I ain't gonna lie. I'm locked in. So I'm definitely gonna react to the next video. I don't know if he dropped it already or let's see. Let's see while we right here. You feel me? Nah, it don't look like it. It don't look like it. So whenever he drops it, I will be reacting to it. But until then, y'all have a good day, and I'll see y'all later.